I got out of vocational school at PSU, and I worked for my uncle for about 2 months because I was trying to get on here. And then I got on here, and I spent the next 25 years at this mine and the one over at Empire by Opolis. And I was a master electrician. On the way to work, I worked the evening shift, then I went to the midnight shift. On the evening shift, if you could see Brutus for 5 or 6 miles away, if he was swinging, he wasn't broke down. And you just kind of grin inside knowing that, hey, it's not going to be a 12 or 16-hour shift. Maybe it's going to be the 8-hour shift and go home. But when you didn't see that, you just kind of planned. No cell phones back in them days. And if I knew I was going to work over like 16 hours or so, I'd call from what they call the tipple side, or where they've done the cleaning. That was a landline. And tell my wife, I don't know when I'll be home. So that's a kind of a typical day. Our job was to maintain this machine, and we had 2 drag lines, which sits on top of ground and dig, and they walk like a duck. But most of our time was spent here, laying out power cable, which I can't tell you if it cost $20 a foot back then, or it weighed 30 pounds, or just vice versa. I don't really remember that there. And we used a big M6 military tank with a big reel on it, and they was in 1,500 foot pieces there, 2 ends. And then we'd have junctions like you would in a house or anything else. So it was quite an upkeep, just keep the power line going into it. And then we had the routine maintenance on here. Then of course, then you had your breakdowns, and you didn't go home clean. You're in all elements. If it's zero out and this thing is at the end of a lot of people call it a drop cord, their cable, you had to change cables. And you couldn't get in there even with a dozer. You'd climb the face, or you would walk in, and sometimes you'd be in mud up to your knees. But it'd take us about 10 to 15 minutes to change from one cable to the other. Everybody got on great. We was a strong union, but we was not a craft union. In other words, there may be nights at flooding, you may help the pumper. Or if they needed a dozer operator, you climbed on a dozer, they'd ask you. Or down here when they changed one of these ropes, these hoist ropes, would take 24 hours. When this machine was down, I don't care what your classification was, you was down here. Because back then I was always told, in the 60s, for every hour this thing didn't dig, it cost $610 an hour. That was a lot of money back then. We had very few injuries because, you look around here, everything's heavy, had to be done with machines. But there was a lot of stuff done with the old 20-pound sledgehammer, which I haven't seen one since I left the mines. And then one of the guys, I've seen him be out there on that bucket with one hand holding on and one foot and swinging a 20-pound sledge, driving a pin into the retract ropes. So, but no, we didn't have much safety equipment, because if we did, we made it ourselves. And we had a few safety meetings, but nothing. But there was only one fatality, as I know of, that happened, and it was just a freak one. Well, I'll tell you what, I remember this thing being stuck twice. What they call where you take the material when they swing in, when they're doing another pit, that was called the berm side. And some mud or something didn't get cleaned up or what have you, and the whole side come in. And we was like 2 or 3 days digging it out, and with the tractors and the dozers and what have you. And the superintendent, which I loved him to death, Emil Sandine, when we was trying to get this out, we had the bucket, 2 D9s, 2 big loaders, and he put his shoulder in one of these tracks, and you didn't laugh. That's how dedicated that man was. Everything. And he was here all the time. Not the bird dog. This was his life. I worked my whole life, but you work hard, but you enjoyed it too. We was like a big family because we worked 7 days a week. I mean, you was here more than you was with your family. One thing I tell people, we was on here, and matter of fact, we was in this lease here where we was digging, and I hadn't been off for maybe 3 or 4 months, and a circus was coming to town. And at the time, we had 2 girls, and they wanted to go to the circus. So I asked 3 or 4 days ahead of time, could I get off? They said, no, we can't let you off. So then I hit him again, and I says, can I come to work, go home, and then come back to work? And they said, yeah, we'll do that. You just drive your vehicle to the pit instead of driving a company truck down. I said, okay. Well, I got to go, when I come to work, this thing wasn't swinging. I thought, uh-oh. So I talked to Emil, the mine superintendent, and I said, Emil, I got 2 girls at home. And I promised him. He says, you know, we're down. I says, well, I'll tell you what. You let me off for 2 or 3 hours, and I'll come right back to work. He said, well, if you have to, do it. I said, okay. I come out here and work till 6 o'clock, went to the circus, come back home, change clothes, and come back out here, and I got home 16 hours later because the rope had busted and there was something else that was wrong. So, but, you know, would people do it nowadays? I doubt it. But, you know, you didn't mind it. I mean, they had to make money. And I'm not saying I was the brains of the outfit. I'm just another coal miner.